Can we expect, really solid, we're rolling back these tariffs? This will now, we'll go back to where we were 2 years ago, or is there going to be some clarity around what happens now?
Well, I think we've just moved the story just in the last few seconds that tells you that the tariffs will remain in place on some $360 billion in trade with China until at least the U.S. presidential election. We've learned from people familiar with the text of the deal and also the discussions around it that there is an agreement between the U.S. and China that they will review progress no sooner, really, than 10 months into that. You do the math, that takes you until the middle of November of this year. That is after the U.S. presidential election. That's an important timetable. It's going to give Donald Trump a chance to really run on both being tough, getting tough with China, but also cutting this deal. At the same time, that's not great news for business. As we know, economists and CEOs will both tell you that U.S. businesses and consumers are paying the cost of those tariffs and that they have been a drag on U.S. economic growth. But at this point, we expect those tariffs, the bulk of them, to remain in place until at least the U.S. presidential election.
Was this always a plan, or is this a reaction to a lot of criticism in Washington that this deal will not be enforceable?
Yeah, so look, whether or not China lives up to this deal is really the $360 billion question. The president and other people in the administration will tell you that one way they can get China to live up to the deal is by maintaining these tariffs in place and not lifting them prematurely. At the same time, businesses adapt, economies adapt, and the Chinese trade numbers overnight certainly weren't unhealthy. They show that China is adapting and finding new markets for its goods outside the U.S. So how long that pressure will continue, it's unclear. But yes, absolutely. Will China live up to the deal? That is the big question.
Because the election is the date that's in question here, Shawn, there's a risk of politicizing this. Of course, there's always been a political element. But does that risk backfiring for Donald Trump?
Yeah, potentially. I think there's 2 or 3 ways in which it could backfire. The first of which is that these tariffs remaining in place could continue to be a drag on growth, and it could drag growth further down. We know that one of the reasons, and we've heard this from the Federal Reserve and other economists, one of the reasons the U.S. did not hit, or is unlikely to have hit, the 3% growth target that the Trump administration set for 2019 is, in fact, the impact of these trade wars and the tariffs. Not just direct impact, but also the impact on business investment via the uncertainty that it has caused for a lot of companies who don't want to be spending money on new factories and other big capital outlays when they don't know where the global economy is going. I think the second big risk here for Donald Trump at the same time politically is that he annoys his base. He ran in 2016 on getting tough on China, and there's already a lot of criticism. We've heard it from Chuck Schumer, the Democratic minority leader in the Senate and a longtime China hawk, already today criticizing Trump for this deal, saying this is a sign of the president going weak on China. So how much of a political football will this deal be in this year and through the campaign? That clearly is a political risk. There are, other risks in terms of people inside his administration and whether he'll hold kind of unity on this.